All right, man. Well, I'm Kelly France. I'm from Toronto. I live in Cabbagetown in Toronto. And yeah, I'm born and raised in this area. Been back in this city for about 4 years now because I just missed it so much. I don't mind hearing the screams at 3 o'clock in the morning the odd time, you know?
Same, man. Same.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm a recovery coach, and the reason I chose that path about 4 years ago is to do with my history in addiction and addiction recovery specifically. And I'm a former crackhead and an alcoholic, and thankfully I don't use either of those substances anymore because they were, not only were they killing me, but they were completely ripping my family apart and destroying my family and literally causing physical health problems to the people who cared about me. So after a lot of failed attempts at getting clean, I finally made that happen back in 2011. So happy to say that I'm living free in that way today.
Wow. That's amazing. Epic, bro. Epic.
Thanks, man.
Good on you, man.
Thanks.
So before we get into everything, I kind of want to get a little background. Like, what was your childhood like?
Sure.
What was your upbringing like?
Okay. So I would say that our family, great family. Let's call us upper middle class. No physical abuse, no big family secrets, no major traumas. We had some daily drinking in the house, but I don't know that that's all that rare for anybody's house, right? So my dad had a great job, a great career, took care of us. We never wanted for anything. Mom's a great mom, loved the shit out of us as much as she possibly could. I have an amazing sister, and honestly, a very supportive family. We grew up in Aurora, Ontario, not too far from where we are right now. A beautiful town. Always did a vacation every year, did some camping, stuff like that. And it's actually nice to reflect back on that, just to see how I guess fortunate I was to have a great family. I always say, okay, I have nothing to blame my addiction on. Absolutely nothing to blame my addiction on, as I wasn't abused. I wasn't.
Most people, a lot of people I talk to come from abuse or, just rough childhoods, lots of trauma and stuff like that.
Definitely.
And that's kind of how they end up going down that path. So for you, how did you end up experimenting with drugs? Like, how did you end up smoking crack?
I think for me it was more like, okay, family aside, because my family's fantastic.
Yeah.
This was all about me. This was all about me and the way I felt about myself. And I think around the age of 12 or so, I started feeling a lot less worthy than I did before. I just felt like my buddies were doing things and they were growing up. I didn't feel like I was an attractive guy. I'm a lot shorter than most people. And I really started to get a really bad opinion of myself. And my confidence levels just got really shitty before I entered high school. And as soon as I entered high school, when there's a lot of new people in high school, never met them before, and that's when we started drinking, or when I started drinking. And I'm talking, Halloween when I was 14 in the 9th grade, I found alcohol, and I just found a way to get that sense of ease and, oh shit, I kind of feel like I fit in now. I can do things and say things that I wouldn't have the confidence to do and say if I didn't have the alcohol.
We all have that buddy in high school who always needed alcohol to say meet a girl or something, Like they could never get with a girl if they weren't drinking,
Yeah.
Whole different story. So what do you think kind of made your confidence like that? Because was it like bullying in school or some shit, or?
Yeah, I got bullied a little bit. Never really thought about that till just now, but it wasn't like rampant or anything like that. And honestly, man, I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe, being short may have something to do with it. Maybe. And, now I don't really give a shit. But like back then as a kid, when I stopped growing and lots of my friends continued to grow, seeing myself as not as good physically as them, could have had something to do with it. Yeah. And I feel that today, not that, because I don't mind going back to my past at all, but I'm really happy that I'm at a point now where I know that whatever happened in my past, not my fault, nobody's fault, but it is my responsibility to take that and learn from it and move on. So no matter what caused me to need alcohol for acceptance and to feel as good as the people around me, whatever that was. I mean, it's not really important to me anymore.
One thing.
No, it's probably a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like I was like ugly too. Honestly,
Yeah.
like it's kind of embarrassing to say that, to actually have that opinion of myself.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy from like me looking at you and you saying that. It's like, buddy, like when you're a regular, good-looking dude.
Oh, thanks, man. You know what else it was though?
Fucking warts popping out of your face.
No, man, we got those removed. I'm just kidding. I didn't have any. When it was as well, and I don't know why I overlooked this, but I was always heavy. I was always fat as a kid. And that is something for me that I just, by default, I disqualified myself from a lot of life because of the way I looked. So physical appearance, again, that was huge for me. It just made me feel not as good as what I would call just normal people. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's tons of people that feel that way.
Hell yeah.
I mean? Tons and tons.
Yeah, and I hear people say like, oh, don't worry about it, you're good just as you are. And I think, well, look, man, if you're 40 pounds overweight and you don't feel good, then you're not good. And you should probably start doing stuff about that, because it wasn't until I actually started exercising and eat better, losing weight, and starting doing some serious running, that really made a huge difference in my life. So
it's like now you're making the healthy choices to change your mindset instead of the unhealthy ones, like the drugs, right? Exactly.
I'm skipping the instant gratification, and I'm going for a little more patient route where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do some good things today, and tomorrow and the next day, it's maybe not going to take care of me like instantly with that high and that buzz, but it certainly is going to take care of me down the road. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big problem with society, is like everybody wants instant gratification.
Yeah.
Nobody's willing to struggle through, the pain for the gain, right?
Damn right, man. And that's what I find is so hard about addiction, because, when you have such powerful drugs today, it's fentanyl, crack, cocaine, heroin, everything that's out there, it is the quickest fix to any problem that we've ever had, and we know it's never let us down once. So it could be, well, I'm gonna have to suffer for the next 6 months going through detox, paying off some debts, making some apologies to people who I screwed over, or you know what, fuck it, I could just take that one hit. And it's just so much easier to get that, to go back to the drug. That's why it's so tough for it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, so it started with the alcohol?
For me, it did, yes.
How did it end up crap?
Well, so I drank, like I would say, alcoholically for, I don't know, from the age of maybe 18 to 30, and it continued after that. I was a late bloomer when it came to drugs. I didn't try cocaine till I was 30. And the first time I tried it, it was just over at a buddy's place, and I think they were kind of secretly using it without showing me, because they saw how I reacted to alcohol. I was the guy who just, when I started, I found it very hard to stop, and I didn't want to stop.
Somewhat of an addictive personality?
I guess, yeah, definitely. And so when I first tried cocaine and they let me do a tiny little line that one night, I was just blown away, because it made me feel like a completely different person than that guy who was from 5 minutes earlier, the guy who only drank alcohol. Now I've got this stimulant in my system, and we go over to the bar across the road, and I felt like the smartest guy in that bar for like 2 hours, just talking to people about shit I had no idea. I must have sounded like a complete moron, but the cocaine just gave me a new level of excitement and I guess acceptance, and just a feeling of like euphoria. Like, this is something I was missing. This was confidence. I was missing this confidence. No matter how much I drank, I didn't get that. With cocaine, it gave me confidence. And I will say that, like, we're on George Street right now in Toronto, which I have fond memories of this place, and I have fond memories of the people here on George Street as well. I didn't see any of them out here today, but when I was at home in Toronto by myself, having a couple of drinks, and I thought to myself, I wouldn't mind doing some coke today. And this was probably back in 2003, 4, I forget what day it was, But I said, well, I'll just go down to, I didn't know too much. I lived in Midtown Toronto. I said, I'll go down to where that Harvey's is, because I know it's a pretty shady area down by what we call Hooker Harvey's.
Yeah.
And so I did. I said, well, I'll just go down there, see if I can buy some cocaine. And sure enough, you can't buy cocaine on the street. Well, maybe you can, but I don't know where to get it. I still don't. So I asked a few people for coke, and they're like, no, we don't have, you know. And the one kid, he was young. He was a young guy. He said, no, I can find you some rock, some crack if you want. And I just remember thinking, like, do I look like a fucking crackhead to you? Look at me, I have a golf shirt on. I think I probably had a golf shirt on that day. And, but anyway, I couldn't find anything else. So 10 minutes later, I found that kid again, and I said, okay, give me what you got. And then he went over to the Jarvis Market there. He got the stuff, gave it to me, made me a little pipe out of a ginseng bottle, sent me home with the directions on how to smoke it. I went home. I said, okay, I'm in my apartment by myself. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I did it. I don't know. I got something out of it. Didn't do it correctly. I came back down an hour later. I was trying to find that kid. I found somebody else. They hooked me up. And then I did it properly, and my head was blown apart by the buzz that I got from that first real hit of crack. And I knew I was in trouble when I was hitting the cocaine. But when I got the effects of that first hit, like even the most dishonest part of me knew how fucked I was, because it was the greatest feeling that I've ever felt.
The first time?
The first time I got a real hit of crack. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting to me, because there you are at first saying, do I look like a crackhead? But then a moment later you're like, fuck it, let me try it.
I need something.
Were you going through like a lot of stress in that moment?
I was, you know, my life was full of kind of, I won't call it depression because it's not clinical, but like anxiety and sadness. Because being a guy that drank alcoholically for like say 15 years up to that point, or 13 years, you know, I had a good job, but I never felt good about myself. I never got over that unworthiness. So that's what I carried around with me at all times.
Would you say that day was one of your like rock bottom low days, or?
No, not at all. I was, you know, I just moved into a new place, was having some drinks at home. I wanted to get some coke and make it a little bit better. So it wasn't anything different. I mean, that day led to the rock bottom days because I found crack that day. Wow. But I know I would have gotten there anyway, eventually with cocaine. There was no avoiding it. It's a powerful addiction into itself, you know?
Yeah. It's very interesting, man.
Yeah.
So the first time you tried crack, you were alone in your apartment.
That's right.
And you actually went out and got it yourself. Like, I've never heard that one before.
Really? No, yeah. I came down here to this street. This is all I knew. This is as far as I was concerned. This is where you'd buy crack in Toronto. After I found out you couldn't get coke here. So
after that first time, when was the next time you got crack?
Good question. It wasn't the next day. Maybe it would have been like, I'm going to say if that was a weekend, it probably would have been the next weekend after that. And it would have come to the exact same place because that's all I would have known. And
what were you thinking like the next weekend? Were you like, fuck, like what, did you know like you're going down a bad path by coming back?
Yes.
Already? You knew?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I knew it, and I kind of liked it because I saw the type of a person that hung around here at George Street, right? We got a Seton House. You got some people that are here because they stay here, or they're here to get drugs or to sell drugs or whatever the case was back then. And honestly, it gave me a level of excitement that I had not experienced before. So that part of it was exciting for me. Coming down here, it was dangerous too, right? I didn't look like the type of person who should be hanging out here. And for me, that was kind of cool. And I think, I shouldn't say I think. For me, I was always down, like, you're here. I was either here or I was up here. I was never your equal or anyone's equal. So when I came down here, strangely enough, I felt like I was a little bit superior to the people that I would see here. And it sounds like a shitty thing to say. And I realize how dumb it is now, because those guys who were selling me this stuff and taking my money, well, no, I mean, like, they're not down here. I mean, whatever. We're all equal anyway. But it was just a weird way for me to think, you know.
Yeah,
I'm really glad.
It's just exciting, right? Like,
it was exciting, man. I felt like the little short white gangster down here, you know. And honestly, I got to meet some people, and I'll tell you, I met some great people. You know, I got robbed a couple of times, but whatever. I mean, it's just that shit happens when you decide to take on this lifestyle. But I met some good people down here.
100%, man. Can I ask you, when was the moment where you're like, fuck, like I'm actually a crackhead now? Like,
well,
blown.
So then I met a guy named Roy on this street. So I would go around trying to buy from people. Some of them wouldn't sell to me. And this guy Roy comes over and he says, he goes, hey, come here. He said, look, he goes, most of these guys here think you're a cop. He said, so they're not going to sell to you. He said, come with me. So he had a place over on Church Street. We go in there. He said, let's go to Queen. So we go and we pick some stuff up because he knows where to get it. So now I have a place to go, which is his place, anytime that I needed it. Either he had it or he and I would go out and get it. So now I had a permanent connection to it. And I think I told him once, I said, dude, because I could obviously see it was becoming a problem. I said, man, if I ever come here during the week, don't sell to me. He said, no problem, right? And so it was a Wednesday just like this, a real nice day. Once I was coming home from work. I was in sales at the time. I had a really good job. Coming home from work, and I thought, man, I better get some, I really need a hit right now. I want some crack. So I stopped by his place, and he said, hey, he said, it's Wednesday. You told me not to sell to you during the week. I said, dude, come on. It's a fucking beautiful day out. I said, like, what? I just want, a couple hits to make it even better. And of course he did. I mean, it's why wouldn't he? He sold to me, and so now I'm a during the week crack addict, and that led to me smoking it at work in the office when nobody else was there. And that was the point where I knew I would be what I call a crackhead. Like there was no just, okay, I'm done and I'll stop it, because.
So there was a time you were doing that at work.
Yeah, I would do it in the office. So I had an office that I only shared with one other guy, and he was often away on business, and so I would come here around noon, pick some up, go back there. And then I'd hit it on the way back, of course. But then I'd go in the office, I'd lock the door, because we're in an office building, so we had neighbors, but no one else was in the office with me. So I would smoke it in our little computer room, be paranoid as shit that the fire alarm's gonna go off, that the neighbor's gonna smell something, or that the FedEx lady's gonna come by, and just there's a puff of smoke, which is very legitimate paranoia, because all this stuff could have happened, right? You shouldn't smoke crack in your office, for anyone out there who's watching. But yeah, that's what I did that. Yeah, wow. Crazy.
And so, did they ever find out?
The work found out, because see what happened between then and them finding out was me getting into so much debt that I couldn't ever see a way out of it. My work was way behind. I was in sales, but I was afraid of my phone at this point, because I had let so many accounts slip, and they were trying to get in touch with me to see if I could, help them with stuff they needed help with. And then at a certain point, I thought to myself, you know what, I'm just going to kill myself. And so what I did, and this was back in 2006, is that I went to Best Buy and got a couple of iPods. They had iPods back then on credit. I went and sold those at the pawn shop, got as much dope as I could, kind of went and said goodbye to some of my friends up north by having a couple of drinks with them, and I had a plan to just do all the drugs I could, and then slip my wrist down by the Don River.
No way.
And and so whatever happened that night, I did get to the Don River. I did do a little test cut on my hands, because I was just like, I don't see a way out of this. I didn't end up going through with it, thank God. About 7 o'clock in the morning, I went to a friend's place. My family was out looking for me all night. Of course, I had friends looking for me because I had disappeared. And that's the day I went to detox. So I had to call my boss and say, here's what's going on. And I told them exactly what was going on. So they did find out. They didn't find out I did the stuff at work, but they were great enough to give me a month off so I could go to detox, and I got into a rehab, and we did that for the next month.
So was that the start of your healing process?
I would say so. It's the first time I was ever introduced to like a 12-step meeting, for example, any sort of like definition of what addiction actually is. I still didn't realize at this point that only my desire to not want to do it anymore was not enough to get me to be clean for good. I just remember going into detox going, thank God that's over. But it was just beginning. That's the reality of it. If I don't keep on top of it, if I don't make changes in my life, if I don't change my behaviors and find some new friends and set some goals and do some good shit with my life and take some risks, I'm not going to stay clean. And I found that out.
Yeah. So was that kind of the breaking point when you were about to kill yourself?
That was when I knew. Okay, that's when I guess all my cards were on the table. I guess like there was no more there was no more lying to anybody. There was no more, yeah, I can do this on my own type thing. So I guess you could call that a breaking point, which is a good thing, right? Maybe even a point of surrender, like, yeah, I'm gonna do my best to get some help and maybe even listen for a change.
So I guess you would say that you're one of the lucky ones that your family was there for you when you were ready.
Oh yeah, absolutely one of the lucky ones. And I know, I see so many people around the city who, and maybe they do have family, maybe they don't, but I know a lot of them just don't have the support that I had with my family. My family eventually had to, so I went back and lived with my parents for a while. This is me in my mid-30s, by the way. And I mean, how many people would have the opportunity to do that? Not many. But they eventually had to, after I went to that first rehab in 2006, had to be around 2008 where they finally had to say, we love you so much, but you got to go because we can't watch you do this to yourself anymore. And so that's when that was after I was in my second rehab center. I'd been arrested while I was in there for a robbery because I was smoking crack in rehab. I had to go home at 1 o'clock in the morning because I was released from the police station, and my mom and dad actually came and picked me up. And it was shortly after that they finally had to let me go. So I stayed in shelter for a few months, and that was actually a real good time for reflection for me, because it was like, okay, not to say, no, I will say it, like I'm better than that. Like, I mean, a big part of me liked waking up in a shelter with absolutely no responsibilities, but the 51% of me realize that, Kelly, you've done better than this. You can do better. There's more to life for you than this, and that's when I got into my third and final treatment center, which was a 6-month program, and it really helped me out. That was back in 2008. Yeah. So,
like, do you consider yourself still, like, actively, I don't know the right word, because it's like you're never just cured, right?
Right. Yeah.
You have to always be working towards staying sober, kind of, right?
I totally agree with that. I think the change for me needs to be constant. I need to be working on stuff myself. Well, I need to be working on myself. Forget about stuff for a second, but I need to be working on myself. Yeah, I can't get stagnant. I still, I do go to 12-step recovery meetings, which are great. I know they're not for everybody, but I say to people, look, even if you don't love it, go there and love the people, because you're going to see so many people there who have solved the problem that you're already trying to solve. At the very least, go check one out and go meet some people, because they're going to love you and they're going to do their best to help you out.
It's like school, you might go to university and like it's shit, but you met some good people that maybe changed your life.
Yeah.
Hey.
How you doing?
Terrible.
Aw.
Where do I get some milk?
I got $5. Here. Well, that's what I got, man. There you go.
That was nice of you. You gave him a 5.
Exactly.
I don't know where we left off there. What was like one of the worst experiences while you were going through your addiction?
For me, a lot of it was like hiding. It was the hiding from family. My family cared so much about me that they would come and search for me, like physically search for me, and having to, I can remember, I was actually thinking about this today. So I was up on Bleecker Street here in Toronto, and I ended up with a few people in this apartment building over there, but my parents had actually come to the city, because I told them where I am. At a certain point I said, okay, you can come and get me, I'm ready, but I got my hands on some more money or some more dope or whatever it was. So as long as I had that, I didn't want to be found. But they found me. And I can remember my dad, and at that point he would have been in his 70s. I was trying to get away from him. We went inside the building, and I go in the elevator and I turn around and my dad's coming up to the elevator, and I'm just trying to get that door to close. And there's my dad outside of the elevator, and the door's closed like this on him, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, wow, what I didn't think, back then I was just like, I got to do what I got to do. But thinking about that now, and just how like awful that makes me feel, that I would do that to my father, who was there and would absolutely give his own life for mine, it's just crazy, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that is insane, man. That is insane. I could just picture it visually, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I'm choosing this over you, but be here when I'm ready, though, will you? You know, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you were healthy at the time, you wouldn't have did that.
Hell no, man. I got to spend 6 good years with my dad, so I got clean in 2011, finally. And he passed away in 2017, so he actually had his son back for 6 years before he passed away. So I'm so happy that we got to have that together.
Did you ever experience like a lot of judgment and stigma when you were in the streets?
You know, I don't think so. I mean, I hit it very well when I was out here, but I didn't experience that. I mean, I remember once I was in Niagara on the lake, and I was a day after I had a night-long crack binge, and I was sitting on the sidewalk like this waiting for a taxi, and a woman was walking down here and she crossed the road, and she didn't want to walk past me. But other than that, man, honestly, Reed, I haven't experienced people not being supportive to me.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think probably because you probably always like kept yourself looking decent and stuff.
Half decent.
Yeah.
You know, I was never a complete asshole to people.
Yeah.
Well, except my family, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, any damage I did at home, as far as stealing things and causing problems and stuff like that. But I wasn't the guy who was out here, you know, for hours on end and getting in people's faces. I usually had a place to go to use drugs. So I didn't have to do that, you know. So as far as the judgment and the stigma, you know, I spent a lot of the time alone.
And so you still live around here?
Yeah.
And this is also where you had all like your crazy experiences.
I know, man. And like George Street, this was the only place I knew to come at first. So I live just like 1 block north of here and a little bit east. And I can remember, but I didn't live throughout my addiction and continued to stay here.
Yeah.
But I moved back in, I guess, 2020.
Oh, okay.
And you know, I had quite a bit of sobriety behind me at that point. If I was a year clean, I wouldn't have done it.
Got you.
So I think having that behind me and realizing that, you know, I do have hope today. I have excitement for my future. I've actually created a plan for my life. I'm a completely different person than I was back then. Also, that I don't come down here and just hang out all day long helps too. I'm not gonna, you know, put myself in harm's way just for the sake of putting myself in harm's way either. You know.
Got you. And did you ever? Was it dangerous for you ever back then? Like, did you ever get any close calls with people?
I was robbed a couple of times. And I can remember coming here during lunch once from work, and I had my work clothes on, but I had money on me, and 3 guys, like right around here actually, grabbed me. 3 guys, and they just wanted to rob me for whatever I had, right? So they pounded me around for a little bit, and they actually managed to get my shirt off for some reason, or maybe I was just doing this and I let go and one of them was grabbing it. But I only had $60 in my pocket, but they didn't get it. Because you try to take a crackhead's money, you're gonna have to do a lot better than that. You're gonna have to bring out a knife or something like that.
Willing to die for that shit.
No, exactly, man. So there was that. As far as that, you know, I was sort of held against my will in Moss Park at a certain point where I was the guy with the money, and then I ran out of money, and that wasn't going over too well. So I had to find a way to get my hands on more money, or they weren't going to let me leave the apartment.
Wow.
And luckily that day, we went downstairs to go across Shooter to go to the convenience store so I could and I'm just hoping, please let there be $20 left in my bank account or whatever it was. But as we're walking across the street, I see 2 friends of mine in the parking lot because my car was out there, and at that time my family had put a GPS tracker on my car so they knew where I was. So they found me.
That.
I know. And they sat there for hours until I came out, so I was able to say, hey, float these guys a few bucks so they'll get off my back, and they did, and that was that. But yeah, that would have been a real shitty situation if they hadn't been there. So thank God for them.
Wow. And so how does it feel being on George Street? You know, seeing everybody out here struggling with addiction. Like, what are your thoughts? Like,
Good question. I have good, and I have like it honestly feels a little bit like home. And at the same time, I think, like, what can we do? Like, what can be done? And I look around and see the guys who might be struggling out here, and I see that half of them are sort of beyond that point of no return. And it's a shitty thing to say, but I just don't know what can be done about a situation like this.
I don't know either, man. I don't think there's one like answer, you know?
No. I always think when I come here, like, man, if these guys could just take a couple of weeks, maybe some of them anyway, the ones that are still salvageable, and you know, let them sit with someone like me to help them sort of create some hope, look into their past and see how like resilient they actually are to have made it this far, to do all those things that we used to do, that I used to do, to make sure I got high that day, all the stuff that they surely still have to do. Man, maybe they can see if they can translate that into living a life that they're excited about, and they might not have to go back to this life, because there are so many guys that are here right now that are not beyond help. There are tons that are definitely salvageable, right? And I know a lot of people try to help. It doesn't work lots of the time, but sometimes it does.
Yeah, man, like even me being out here, like it's an emotional roller coaster trying to help people off the street or with addiction and mental health and stuff. It's just so hard, man.
It is.
That's why I feel for all the families, you know? And I understand why people get kind of abandoned, because at some point families have to protect their own mental health, right?
Of course they do, yeah. You know, my sobriety is based on the level of hope I have. If I think there's no hope for my future, like I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. So luckily today, through sobriety, goal setting, getting into fitness, right? I said I was so heavy before, and I just hated that. So I don't live like that anymore, and realize that you know, I'm 51 years old. I still have a lot of life left. You know, I used to smoke cigarettes too, and I quit that when I was in my last rehab center. I used to have a challenge, you know, walking upstairs, and I run marathons today. Like I'm a marathon runner.
It's
I get
crazy,
to travel over
the human body.
Yes, man.
Capable to bounce back.
Absolutely, both mentally and physically, we can recover, for sure.
One more question. Did you ever deal with like police getting arrested and shit like that?
I did. So I was arrested once. I robbed someone while I was in rehab, and so they chased me down until. Well, what happened was I was a total scumbag. I mean, there's no two ways about it, right? So I was smoking crack while I was in rehab. So I was putting all those guys in danger, right? Because you're not supposed to do that when you're in rehab, just for anyone watching. And so I had the taste of it one day, and I had to go out and get more. And so I found this poor woman walking into a grocery store, and I snatched her purse just like a scumbag. And I did. And I was riding my mountain bike, and so people started chasing after me. I ended up at the side of a river. It was the middle of February in Canada, so it was cold as shit. But the river wasn't frozen, so I jumped in the river fully clothed. I swam across the river because the crack house was on the other side of the river, and that's the only goal that I had. And I got to the other side and found that what I had stolen from her was no longer with me. So I don't know where I lost it, but I lost it. And at that point, I went upstairs to the crack house, walked back downstairs, and just said, just walk until they catch you, because you're not going, you know. And so sure enough, the cops came up on me about 5 minutes later and arrested me. And I was out that night. I was released back
to
the treatment center. Exactly. And guys like me are like a dime a dozen to them. They don't have room in jail for guys like me, I don't think. You know, there's so many of us that do stupid shit like that just in the name of getting drugs.
Yep.
You know?
I think that's a big reason why they decriminalized the drugs, you know?
There's not enough time. There's not enough people.
Addicts in jail over and over again. It doesn't really make sense.
No, you're right.
I noticed you have the NYPD hat.
I love this hat, man. This is like, so I told you I run marathons. My favorite race ever was when I ran the New York City Marathon back in 2021, and I bought this at the Marathon Expo because the NYPD Running Club were there and they were selling all their stuff. So yeah, I went and bought that there, and I just love this thing. And New York City for me is like my favorite place on earth. I go there as often as possible. So yeah, it's a special hat, man. It means a lot to me.
Nice. No, it's just funny because you're saying like they used to think you're a cop, and like I'm sure they're looking at you today like, who's this cop?
I still get that. I still get that on like my Instagram posts and stuff like that. Oh, this man is a Fed. There's no question about this guy's a Fed. He's undercover.
Right? I get that shit too, man.
I'm sure you do. Man, we talked about a lot.
Yeah.
No, I've appreciated this, Reed. This has been great, man. Yeah, this has been really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being open, and you know, not a lot of people are willing to be open about their dark past, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of power to that, right? Because we can all learn from this shit, you know what I mean? And if we all just sweep it under the rug and never talk about it, you know, it doesn't help.
Oh yeah, I don't hide this from anybody.
Yeah.
You know?
I commend you for that, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, I commend you for that. Oh yeah, the safe injection stuff and all the needle kits. Like, you think that shit's just bad, eh?
No, not the needle kits. I think the needle kits are great. I mean, I think that's harm reduction. Personally, I think that's harm reduction. I'm just talking about crack pipes and push sticks. I don't think that's harm reduction. Safe injection, yes, keep the needles off the street. Anything that can keep somebody off the street, out of jail, or out of the morgue, in my opinion, is great. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it, man.
Gotcha.
You know, safe consumption, safe injection, whatever you want to call it, yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
bro.
thank you, Reed.
And where can the people find you?
Oh, they can find me on Instagram. My name's Kelly France. It's KELLYFRANCE, recovery coaching. And check me out on Instagram.
And you have a website too, right?
Say hey, yeah, it's kellyfrance.com.
Cool. I'm gonna link it all in the description, the
Thanks,
YouTube
brother.
description. Yeah.
Man, thanks. Good to see you, Reed. Good to meet you,
Yeah,
brother.
man. Nice
Appreciate
to meet you too. We'll be in touch, bro.
Right on, man.
All right.
Thanks.